Simultaneous with this initiative comes the education reform, and with it tax, I wouldn't necessarily call it tax reform, let's call it tax changes that were necessary, just to cover the budget deficit that was looming for the coming fiscal year. Walk us through the process that the legislature went through in grappling with first the budget deficit and then also the education reform package.
Well, I think what happened here, and again, hindsight being 2020, is rather than wait for the actual decision on Abbott versus Burke, a determination was made by the governor's office and by some of us in the legislature that we should begin to deal with the consequences and the costs of Abbott versus Burke.
Because you knew what the decision was going to say.
We basically knew that the court was going to decide that there needed to be increased funding for the urban districts, which became the Abbott districts as a result of the ruling. So yes, there was a realization that we needed to deal with that. Mm-hmm. And so we began to deal with it before the actual decision came down, which in the end, as I say, looking back, we probably should have waited and created some type of a crisis. Rather, we decided that we would be proactive, and being proactive, I think we politically hurt ourselves.
What do you think that most citizens recognize that sort of nuanced difference between anticipating a decision that later came down anyway versus waiting a month or two and then saying the court's forcing us to do it?
I think that, no, initially they would not have realized the nuances, but eventually they did, because obviously the impact of the QEA, the Quality Education Act, mm-hmm. and the taxes that were passed to deal with the budget deficit and to fund the QEA became major issues amongst the electorate. Mm-hmm. So I think in the end they did realize what was going on, but it worked to our detriment.
Mm-hmm. One of the arguments that has been made over the years is that Governor Florio's predecessor, Tom Kean, was very successful in getting a number of taxes passed by being dragged kicking and screaming by the legislature to enact them, whereas Governor Florio's position was to be proactive and go to the legislature and submit these proposals. Do you think that the relative popularity of the two governors was reflective of that difference, and that Florio would have been smarter to have waited for the legislature to take the lead on some of these issues?
I think that Governor Tom Kean was a very intelligent and very competent governor, as was Governor Florio. Governor Florio was extremely knowledgeable in the area of policy. I think Tom Kean was very, very intelligent in allowing the situation to fester for a while, and then to create a situation where we came in one day on the eve of New Year's Eve after an election and passed and increased almost every tax in the state on a bipartisan basis. Mm-hmm. But obviously in the situation with Governor Florio, we moved proactively ahead. But the bigger difference, in my opinion, is that after we passed the Kean tax package, the economy boomed, and the economy would move forward and did very well. Whereas after the passage of the Florio tax package, the economy did not boom. In fact, we went into a little bit of a recession. Mm-hmm. Not the result of those taxes in either case, but a result of the national economy. And so in Governor Kean's situation, the revenue increased significantly. We had more than enough money for the period of time after the 85 election and through 1985. Governor Kean won with the largest majority ever as a result of the improving economy and all the money that the state had to spend, whereas Governor Florio was not as lucky. The national economy went into a recession, and thus even with the increase in taxes, we weren't able to necessarily do all that we should have been able to do with the new money. So I think that obviously the impact of national economy on state politics and state decision-making had a lot to do with the perceptions of both governors. Both governors very competent, both governors very able and very knowledgeable. But again, now you need to have virtù and fortuna. You need, as Machiavelli would say, you need to have the skills and the abilities, but you also need to have the luck. And sometimes the luck's with you and sometimes it isn't. And in Florio's case, it wasn't.